So we've got the boats glued. We flipped it back over, put it on the trailer, and the trampoline is on and tightened. And so the next order of business is assembling all of the hardware. This is kind of fun, but it's also a bit of work, so stay tuned. We went ahead and we put the mast back on the boat, or on the trailer rather, so that we can start rigging the hardware. And I want to show you some of the little things that I've been doing. We set up the bridle, and what we've done with the bridle here is we've got the bridle. It'll look something like that when it's fully hoisted, but I inverted the fork. That's because really it's just the forestay that connects to that, and all the business end is down here lower on the adjuster fork, and this way I can get the jib as maybe lower than I would if I had it reversed like that. So actually it's just another little deal that you may or may not use. I did check the tangs to make sure that these screws are tight. Boy, if you get a loose screw, if you have a screw loose, see a shrink. But also, if these tang bolts are loose, they wobble around, and that's where you can get cracking in the fiberglass. So you want to keep checking those puppies and making sure that they stay tight in their hole. This is the mast tang, and this is a conflagration of all kinds of stuff. I'm going to try to break it down. You've got a really, really big shackle at the very bottom hole of the mast tang. That takes the two shrouds, the forestay, and the jib halyard. There's the forestay, there's my jib halyard, and then you have the two shrouds, all right? The top two holes of the mast tang, there's a shackle that actually fits into both holes, and two of the trapeze wires go on one side and two go on the other side. And then of course one of those trapeze wires is for the skipper and one is for the crew, and ditto on the other side. And typically I use the upper one goes to the skipper, who's further back, and then the one that's the inner one, or the lower one, is for the crew. And we'll show you how we set that up. Okay, you're gonna think I'm nuts, but it's a game of inches if you race at the level that I race at. It's a few inches off the start line, gives you clearer air, and pretty soon that works out to half a boat length at the weather mark and several boat lengths at the finish. But in any case, up in here, that bolt that comes down from here, it overhangs by about 3 or 4 threads, and that creates additional drag. So I'm going to unscrew this, cut this off so that it's flush with this, and that's going to reduce drag. And yeah, I'm nuts, but when I show up at the starting line, I know that I've done everything to be prepared to win. So we talked earlier about the anchor bolt sticking down and the drag turbulence and stuff that it creates. So I've cut off that anchor bolt, as you can see here. Interestingly enough, the other anchor bolt was flush. So not all anchor bolts, I guess, are created the same length. After I got done with the anchor bolts and the bridle and the riding line, I started working on the shrouds. And so the boat came with just a stud sticking out of here from the anchor bolt. Where am I? There we go. And so now I had to add this twist toggle, and that, my friends, is really, really important. It's never happened to me, but a lot of people have taken that out, I've heard, and lost their mast. That's right, broke it. So the twist toggle is on all of my boats. I don't need that kind of headache, all right? After the twist toggle then is the adjuster fork in what would be considered the upright position. And then after that is the shroud. And this is in a semi-complete state. I'm going to go to the other side and show you the other state. And then I also have over here my where is it? There it is. That's my traveler line, jib traveler line, and I'm going to tie that around the shroud. And the way I'm going to do that is I just have just a regular little knot in there, a hitch, if you will, and I'm going to tie another hitch around the shroud. So the first one becomes a stopper, and now this one connects it to the shroud. And I'm going to go to the other side and show you what it looks like. So here's what the finished product looks like. The pins are all facing in to try to reduce the amount of drag. I've taped them all up. The twist toggle, I've also I've just taped the rings up so they won't come out. And then I like to double pin my my shrouds. So Hobie Cat only gave me one set, so I had to add an upper pin. And so the lower hole is the official where you would pin it. The second one is just a safety. The advantage of having it double pinned is that you can loosen your jib halyard and adjust this on the fly without any issue. If you needed to go up a hole, you would take the bottom one out and move it up a hole. If you needed to go down a hole, you would take the upper one out and move it down a hole. So I like having those double pinned. I had to squeeze the shroud adjuster on it, and then here's what the traveler line looks like. So it's got a stopper knot, plus it's got the attached to it. That way the crew, if you ever need to adjust the traveler on the way upwind, because it's the wind velocity has changed, your crew can just reach in, grab the traveler line, and make the appropriate adjustment. It does take practice to do it from the wire, so I recommend you practice it, but at least it does have that. Let's talk riding lines for a moment. The old, I think they call them Hawaiian riding lines, where there's lots of bungee and a big thick line that goes from corner to corner and then back to the rear crossbar and all of that. That system might have been real comfortable, but if you're going to race competitively, you gotta get rid of that in a heartbeat. For my riding line, I like to use good old polypropylene, the yellow stuff that floats on the water. The biggest advantage to polypropylene is that it does not hold any water. So after you've righted the boat, and if you're going to keep racing, you're not carrying around another 50 pounds of water like some of the old systems. This boat did come with a riding line. It was blue and white material. I don't know if it holds water or not, so I didn't bother using it. You know, this polypropylene is cheap stuff at, 35 cents a foot or whatever they charge, so it's no big deal. And what I do is I tie it to the rear crossbar, and then I'll thread it through that center lacing. And by doing so, it just, again, keeps things from falling through the lacing a little bit. And then I can pull on the extra line, the spare, the bitter end, as it were, and pull that line out. Except that it's not that easy, because I've added 3 figure-8 knots. There's one there, there's another one right there, and there's a third one back there. And each of these figure eights are hand stops because this polypropylene is kind of slick stuff. And so you're leaning out trying to right the boat and your hand just slides down. And so these knots stop that, and they're spaced about 3 feet apart. So you can hand over hand climb up the riding line as you're riding the boat. The good news is, well, the bad news is that when I first started sailing these boats, I only had one speed, and that was pedal to the metal. Just hammer down as hard as you possibly can. That unfortunately resulted in a lot of capsizes and pitch poles, which my crew wasn't all that happy about. With time, I've developed a little bit of technique. The good news, or rather, let me start with the bad news first. The bad news is that when I first started sailing Hobie cats, I didn't have much technique, and I only knew one speed, and that was pedal to the metal. We'd be on a beam reach, and I would double trap, you know. Needless to say, that resulted in quite a few capsizes and pitch poles, neither of which really fired my crew up a whole lot. What I've learned with time and wisdom is some technique so that I don't crash quite so much. And also that there's times when it's a good idea to just throttle back and survive, live for another day. The one with the pointy end up goes faster than when the pointy end is down in the water. So, but the other side is you just also takes time developing some technique. And as you get better with it, you'll capsize less. Nowadays, I capsize about once a year, and even then that frustrates me and embarrasses me. But I guess it means I'm pushing the envelope a little bit.